Giratina down as well.
And Fabio with the spice here, playing that Hisuian Gudra V-Star. Now, Fabio is a Day 2 player from the European region. He comes from Italy, and he's played Gudra pretty much this entire season. We looked at his past tournament finishes. It is filled with Gudra. And it totally makes sense. You know, if you played it all season, you know it the best. Why not stick with it for the biggest tournament of the year?
Just a trail of slime all the way to Japan.
Michael Pramawat, of course, like we mentioned, finalist back in 2010 here at the World Championships, the winningest player in the U.S. Regionals circuit history. One of the greats of all time from North America, of course, won EUIC, that very first international championship back in 2016. An extremely decorated player, and I know this is the big one, right? You know, he's won an IC, he's won U.S. Regionals multiple times. He has not won the World Championships. This is the one he wants to make happen.
Well, it might be tricky when you don't have any Pokemon in your deck. Cramorant down, Comfey, double Giratina V in the prize cards to start things off.
Yeah, the 2 Giratina seems pretty tough. They are at the bottom, so hopefully he'll find them pretty quickly. On Fabio's end, nothing too bad. 1 Colress, you never love to see that, but other than that, you know, maybe that 1 Metal Energy could be a little awkward. You got to keep track of your energy cards with decks like this, where you're using the Radiant Greninja to draw through the deck, and you need to use Mirage Gate as well.
Should lead to an interesting game. Of course, when you look at these decks on paper, it looks like Michael Pramawat does have a slight edge, does not really worry about all of the hit points that we see on the Gudra side. We'll see how it plays out, though, when you only have 1 Giratina to start things off.
Speaking of starting things off, it will be Pramawat with the first turn. Starting that Radiant Greninja, an excellent card in this deck. Gets you energies. You know, you play so many energy cards already, so you just ditch them, can get through the deck, draw more cards, and he also has one of the most powerful cards in the entirety of the format in Battle VIP Pass.
Yeah, this is the card that's unlocked so many decks. Just having this opportunity to search through, find the right Pokemon that you're going to need on this opening turn. Generally, it is going to be those Comfeys. He's going to find 2 of those early. Tons of switching effects in order to use his Pokemon, and maybe he even has his favorite card in the deck, Jet Energy.
Yeah, Jet Energy, a 4 of card in this list. It's a new card from Paldea Evolved, and it's really what kind of has unlocked this deck from being kind of mediocre in the last format to being a real contender in this one.
Hey, there it is, right off the top. And that's going to be what we're looking for as he gets to promote that into the active spot and get his first card into the Lost Zone.
Yeah, we'll see that flower selecting. Looks like it was a Colress and a Basic Energy. Pretty easy choice, Colress being one of the more important cards in this deck. It's what gets you more cards in the Lost Zone, which unlocks all of your other possible plays. This next flower selecting does see a Path to the Peak and a Comfey. Pramawat did not do a super thorough check of his prizes, so might not realize that second Path is prized. He does only play 2 copies, but at the same time, Path is not super good in this matchup. It can be nice if you can stick at that 1 Moisture Star turn, but not super necessary. Now Fabio starts his first turn off, has that Cramorant active, and he says, Pramawat, anything you can do, well, I can do it too. Battle VIP Pass.
It might not be better. The Cramorant is stuck in the active spot right now, but you play very similar cards. We see Jet Energy right there in the window, so perhaps there's an opportunity to get just as many flowers selected. And, of course, you have that opportunity to use a supporter for the turn. Got to be looking for that Colress.
Absolutely going to be looking for the Colress's Experiment. It's pretty interesting as well. So we look at decks like Lost Tina and Lost Gudra. They were really good back before rotation when they had Scoop Up Net. Kind of fell off when we lost that powerful card. Then we see Jet Energy get introduced, and everyone kind of recognizes, okay, this is solid with Giratina. Let's add these in. Maybe people overlooked the potential that it gives to Gudra, because it works pretty similarly. Obviously, you don't get the Jet Energy into the Abyss Seeking play that is so good with Lost Tina, but it is still really strong to give you some movement.
Yeah, any deck that has that colorless requirement, at least in one of the 3 of the attack, got to be looking to see if you can include this Jet Energy. And also, sometimes it's just nice to have as a concealed card fodder. You can continue to just draw and draw. Speaking
of the concealed cards, Fabio ditches a Water Energy to draw 2 from the top. Has to attach and retreat this Cramorant. We will see the first flower selecting. Feels pretty unlikely that Fabio will be able to get off an attack this turn. There is a Lost Vacuum in the hand and a Stadium card, so I guess there is a play if Fabio was able to find enough off of this flower selecting. Looks like a second Cramorant going to the Lost Zone.
Yeah, we've seen Cramorant be so useful in these Lost Box matchups. Having 2 of them would be very nice, but you see how important it is to have that additional Comfey. that might be the way that you get out of this mess, and it's just going to be pass of the turn, no supporter here.
Not ideal. Pramawat has what Fabio did not, that Chorus Experiment. Able to look at these top 5 cards. Is going to add 3 to the hand, 2 more to Lost Zone. This would unlock Pramawat as an attacker if Pramawat had it around. Of course, it is in the prize cards, but it does get him closer to the 7 cards necessary in the Lost Zone. Fabio did something pretty smart I think we should draw attention to as well. He had a Comfey off that flower selecting, but chose not to bench it. Why would that be?
You tell me.
Radiant Greninja.
Oh, of course. There we go. Yeah, it's. I'm looking at it here. It is a long shot to have everything that you'd need there. We do see the 2 Comfeys down, so you need the additional 1. But missing that mana fee is key. And sure enough, Michael Pramawat understands that too. It's going to be a big factor in a matchup like this. Even when you see 1 card in the Lost Zone on the other side for Fabio, you got to be wondering maybe they play enough cards to get to 7 on turn 2.
Michael searching the deck with this Nest Ball. It'll allow him to place any basic Pokemon onto the bench. It does look like Manaphy is one of the targets. As you mentioned, can be really strong. That's the thing about the Goodra deck from Fabio. It is, you know, having Goodra as its main attacker, but there are other options. That Radiant Greninja, and then we also saw in Fabio's hand, he actually plays the Zamazenta from the Crown Zenith expansion. What do you think of that inclusion?
I mean, it's a great way to target down that Giratina V early because, of course, Retaliate's going to be dealing 220 damage. If you can sneak that into the mix, you're going to be taking advantage of the prize exchange, as we haven't seen the Goodra on that side. I mean, Pram's avoiding any of the V Pokemon on his own, whether he liked it or not.
Pretty annoying choice here for Pramawat. Off the flower selecting it is a Super Rod and a Grass Energy. There is already one of each of those cards in the Lost Zone. Does choose to lose that Super Rod. Does play a 3rd copy, though, so that is something he may have access to. It's actually already in his hand.
Yeah, that is unfamiliar for a lot of these decks. Generally, it is just the 2 ways to bring back in the double Super Rod. So he gave himself that opportunity to throw away 1. Now, he doesn't want to throw away 2, but you'll understand when you see another Grass Energy.
Escape Rope being played. Fabio offering up the Radiant Greninja, as he should. Definitely the best thing to promote. You don't want to allow your opponent to have any sort of easy Cramorant targets, not knowing, of course, that Pramawat has prized that 1-of card. Pramawat now, with the flower selecting, sees 2 cards from the top, loses a Nest Ball, doesn't need too much else, and I think protecting these energies is pretty important as well.
Yeah, it's not looking like there's much of an attack lined up just yet, but we're getting closer as we see the switch card. To get to 7, Mirage Gate could open up some avenues, but I don't believe we saw the water energy if Radiant Greninja were to be the play. Yeah,
Pramawat does have like a decent amount of energy cards in the hand, which is annoying. Now, we do see this Mirage Gate going to the Lost Zone. I think the take here is a Jet Energy.
Yep, that's a nice one to find. Now we got to see what Pokemon you want to work into the mix.
Is it going to be a Shred here on Giratina V?
It is a great way to knock out this Radiant Greninja. Of course, dealing 160 damage is unfamiliar territory, but hey, there's one that deals 180.
Yeah, this is a really cool tech from Pramawat, not something we see too often in these Lost Tina decks, and it is that Snorlax. And I remember back to that first regionals with Lost Origin Legal, Pramawat played Lost Tina with the Snorlax in his deck. People were not playing it at the time. He chose to include it, and he said it was so good for him. He didn't quite make it into the top 8 of that event. I think he finished in the top 16, top 32, somewhere in that range, but he was one of the early adopters of the Snorlax, and now in a format where this deck has become popular once again, he's recognizing that this is an excellent 1-prize attacker as Thumping Snore deals 180 damage to take out this Radiant Greninja. Snorlax does go to sleep, and you do have to flip 2 coins to try to wake up. But I have to imagine this is why Pramawat is playing so many switching cards in his deck.
I've seen him roll. Oh! I was just about to say it. I've seen him roll this 3 times, and he's woken up twice. So I was definitely expecting to see that, and that is wild that he's just going to go ahead and wake up.
That is a massive double flip. Had to hit both heads in order for this Snorlax to wake up from its nap. Fabio does have a play where he could potentially pull off the Zamazenta, but he's so far behind when it comes to cards in the Lost Zone.
I mean, just look at cards in hand as well. There's nothing to work with right here. It has to be Colress in the next few cards if we want to get the ball rolling.
3rd card to the Lost Zone will be Path to the Peak. Not super good in this matchup. It can be nice to shut off that Radiant Greninja, but it is not the most important piece. Nest Ball now from Fabio. May find that first Hisuian Goodra V. We got to start getting one of those established at some point in this game, you would think.
Yep, and this might be one of the safest turns, as you know that with no bench space, no Giratina V, there's no real threat to the Hisuian Goodra. Of course, damaging it doesn't feel good in a matchup like this. Could walk into Moisture Star at some point, so Well, looks like a good turn to go ahead and get this Pokemon established.
Yeah, Fabio seems kind of frustrated in this point. His opponent's drawing pretty well, was able to get the turn 2-7 in the Lost Zone with the Mirage Gate, and he's a little bit behind. He went second, didn't find a Colress. On his turn 2, did not find a Colress once again. You can see the frustration kind of coming through.
Yeah, I mean, Fabio needs a lot of help right here. Still no Mana Feast, so there's the threat of Radiant Greninja at some point dealing with both of these Comfeys. You could take plenty of prize cards at some point, so you have to be wary of all that.
Yeah, double Comfey coming into play. Now there are 3, just a pass. Pramawat able to draw for turn. Now we can see Snorlax take another knockout, and that's all Pramawat has. That might be all he needs. Readies the dice, flips again, and it's another double heads.
What?
Are you kidding me?
He's saving it for the big leagues.
I think Pramawat might be wishing, hey, could I hold on to one of these for
I might need
top
one game
8?
too,
yeah, you know, yeah. Yeah, if I make it deep in this tournament, why am I wasting all my double heads now? Hold on to some of that run good for later.
Well, slowly but surely, Fabio is getting cards into the Lost Zone. Course Experiment would be so much better, though, man. Come on.
And has to lose a Mirage Gate here, choosing to keep a basic Water Energy. Doesn't even have Radiant Greninja to help supplement for the draw. Has to just attach and retreat to the Comfey. Kyle, this is starting to get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do unless you
Finally
find the Course Experiment? But oh, okay, it does find a Course Experiment, but you do see a card that you might want later on there in that Roxanne.
Yeah, I think if Fabio has a chance to win this game, it's going to be through the Disruption. Lost Tina really struggles with Disruption in the late game if you don't set up your board enough and thin your deck down enough, which you don't always have options to do. We saw Pramawat last turn did nothing but attack, so
yeah,
he's got not a ton of options available.
Ooh.
Fabio will lose this Roxanne, however. That is a card that would have been really strong, but in this situation, it feels like that's all Fabio's able to make happen.
Yeah, you could see a window where maybe there's a world where Fabio starts to place damage on the bench, Snorlax stays asleep, and then you can just continue to steal a couple extra turns, placing all of the damage with the Sableye. Because Pramawat is bench locked at this point. There is no Sableye that's going to be coming down on his side until we see a knockout.
Pramawat able to spit innocently, places 110 damage to Radiant Greninja. Pramawat now drawing for turn. Has an energy to ditch with the concealed cards if he so chooses. Looks like it will just be attach retreat though, and once again, is that all he has? No way this thing wakes up 3 times. No way! What is happening, Kyle?
No.
And he's playing Pokemon like he's at the play lab right now. He's just retreating and attacking.
Theme deck format out here. Attach for turn, retreat, attack. All you need to do. Course's Experiment once again for Fabio, trying to find some way to piece an attack together. That Zamazenta has been in hand since the early game. Can he work in an attack here?
Well, maybe Fabio realized, well, I've got Iona, I'll just find that later on. He's taking all the prize cards. This will be better than Roxanne.
We do see Comfey going down here. An energy card, a couple supporters, and a Pokegear. Looks like Pokegear will be the one to hit the Lost Zone. Now with 9 cards in that Lost Zone, and after this flower selecting, that will be 10 to activate that Sableye. You might be confused to see Sableye in a Hisuian Gudra V-Star deck. It's not something you expect all too often. The Psychic Energy obviously not synergizing super well with the water and metal requirements that Hisuian Gudra V-Star has, but players have started to include this here and there in this deck as a way to just finish off attacks, because Gudra is a deck that is damage capped. 200 damage every turn, that's the most you could possibly do. So having Sableye as an option to come in and clean things up can be really, really good at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's been a great inclusion. Only the 2 Psychic Energy, so it's not that detrimental to the synergy of the list. And I think Fabio's not finding what he's looking for. Looked a little disgruntled there as he has to throw away that Choice Belt.
Yeah, Choice Belt hitting the Lost Zone. Fabio has so many cards in hand, it's kind of hard to believe that there's no real plays lined up. It will be the Escape Rope now as Sableye hits the bench with the Psychic Energy. Pramawat happy to offer up this Comfey. Now, how should Fabio spread this damage? Do you take the knockout on the Greninja, or do you have to be a little more methodical here to find a way back from this 6-3 card deficit?
Yeah, I think you have to be completely reliant on the Snorlax falling asleep and staying asleep. It's the only way to come back at this point. Sableye is going to be knocked out next turn. You're going to be reliant on that Iona into another Sableye, hoping this Pokemon never finds a switching effect. I think you're going to target down the Mana Fee and start to put some damage onto the Comfeys, but it looks like he's actually going for the knockout here.
Okay, yeah, going to take 2 prizes this turn. Try to get back in this as much as possible and spread some damage on the Comfeys. And I think it will have to be a, reliant on Snorlax staying asleep type of angle.
This is pretty surprising. Of course, taking some prize cards does feel nice. You might need some help from the prizes.
Maybe knowing a Colress is in the prizes.
Sure, but I mean, you have to think that Iona was going to be the route to victory. You need a lot of help here, and Michael's just going to continue to burn through the deck, find those resources, but likely start to conserve some of those and seize the switch card and the jet.
I'm sure Michael will recognize that kind of the way he loses this game is if Snorlax stays asleep for too long. So I totally expect to see him hang on to things like switch cards and jet energy in this spot, and maybe losing a Giratina's not too bad. I mean, at this point in the game, does he even need Giratina to win?
Absolutely not, and doesn't even need Sableye, which would have been a very nice attacker. You see the 3 cards selected are all cards he would love to see off of a Roxanne, off of an Iono at some point. Just something to continue to move around the Snorlax or get something rolling. But yeah, the energy is there for the Sableye. You can go ahead and attack with something that never falls asleep.
Yeah, could attack with the Sableye here, get more damage in play. Of course, Snorlax deals more damage, 180, but it's kind of wasted on the 80 HP of Sableye, so why not use your own Sableye here, place 8 on the active, and then you have 4 more damage counters to play around with. Sure enough, 8 damage counters going down to Sableye, and Pramawat choosing here to just stack all 4 other counters onto Comfey.
Yeah, and that does line up for the last 2 prize cards for Michael if he does have access to that final Sableye. We did see it go to the Lost Zone, but there is still that last Super Rod in hand.
Could pull off an attack potentially even with that Radiant Greninja if he wants to put that back with the Super Rod. Fabio actually does not even play the Manaphy. We've talked about how there's no Manaphy down yet.
Where is it?
In the binder. Looking through the massive amounts of cards that he has access to, you have to think Fabio would have some sort of play available. Super Rodding back, Sableye, and a Psychic is a decent start. And we do know that Iono is currently in this hand as well.
Yep, this would lead to having the Sableye knock out the other Sableye, and then really hoping to find one final attacker that can work through the Snorlax. I'm just hoping that Michael does not see anything strong off the 2 cards from the Iono and the top deck.
And it does also involve Fabio drawing decently, I think, here off of his own Iono. I mean, he would get 4 cards here, which is really quite a bit better than the 2 that Michael Pramawat would receive, but you're putting cards on the bottom of the deck that you know you're not going to see. One of those being Mirage Gate. That's a great way to get energy into play and also retreat a Comfey out of the active spot. So 4 cards from an Iono plus 1 off of a Flower Selecting might be the line Fabio's going for.
Yeah, you start to wonder even if Mirage Gate, just to get an energy onto the Comfey, would be correct if this is going to be the Iono turn. See the Flower Selecting first.
Do see that Flower Selecting. Fabio was also considering going for a Raihan, using that piece this turn as opposed to the Iono, and then maybe go for the Iono to 1 next turn. The problem is Pramawat's got it lined up to just win the game.
That's bizarre, yeah. When you see your opponent has already thrown away a Sableye, feels very comfortable with their giant hand of, what, 15 cards, they probably have access to that Sableye once more.
And now Hisuian Goodra V hits the Lost Zone. Pramawat seeing, oh, it is a Goodra deck.
So what is this guy?
He probably had his assumptions.
It is going to be the Raihan there to get the energy onto the Comfey. Maybe eventually lead to the Sableye coming down.
Yeah, and it looks like Sableye will be the grab, and I think there are a couple Mirage Gate in the hand currently. So Fabio will be able to pull off the Lost Mine, will KO this Sableye. Could also take out 2 Comfeys, but you definitely have to deal with the Sableye, otherwise you just literally instantly lose the game.
Losing is bad, yeah.
Talking through all the options here, even though, I mean, I guess that's not really an option. Now Fabio, once again, so many cards, has that Sableye, a few Mirage Gate available. I think at this point in the game, Fabio should probably try to reveal as little information as possible. You know, hold off on showing that the Zamazenta's in the deck. Hold off on showing something like Lost Vacuum. But you know what? Throw the Zamazenta down because maybe you have a chance to attack with it in the future.
That would be the only way, basically, to handle this Snorlax from this point on, as we don't see the Goodra lining up anytime soon. The energies are being distributed as well.
Yeah, it really does have to be Zamazenta to deal with the Snorlax because Snorlax's ability prevents it from being affected by all effects of your opponent's attack. So Sableye cannot place damage counters on it.
The other route to victory would just be ignore the Snorlax, but it doesn't seem to be what we're going for here.
Interesting to see the Temple of Sinnoh going down. That feels like a card that would be pretty nice to combo with Iono, so your opponent can't jet energy out of the sleep.
Yep, maybe we've seen a few of those jet energies, but yeah, you do want to look out for the final few copies. Just don't give your opponent that out.
8 damage counters, it appears, being placed on the Sableye. Now with 4 left to play with, where does Fabio want to place those counters? Looks like 1 will be on the Comfey, even them all up.
As long as it's not the Snorlax.
2-2, and we're going some more right here. Yeah, don't choose the Snorlax.
Yep, this does line up for the strategy where Snorlax could stay asleep forever. You get that second Sableye down, and maybe you can work something out.
So as Pramawat here, if you can't win this turn, how do you play to make sure that even if your opponent Ionos you to 1, you're in the best possible position to win?
Well, you'd like to hold on to the switching effect, so unless you can guarantee that this Sableye will be found here, which we will see a pretty close guarantee with the Colress Experiment in hand and the Flower Selecting, the Mirage Gate in hand as well.
Yeah.
There's not much deck left.
Yeah, he should have pretty decent odds. It even has a Jet Energy as well to get another Comfey search in. I feel like Pramawat's maybe going to be able to draw the entire deck here. All he needs is a Sableye and a Psychic Energy and then a way to get those pieces into the active spot.
Even Nest Ball occasionally hangs around there, but we do see, looks like plenty of energies there. And another switch card too. So much could get there, but going to be looking for that Sableye, of course.
Yeah, choosing to just grab the Grass Energy out of the deck. I wonder if there's another Mirage Gate in the hand. Might be hanging on to that, so that's a way to accelerate the energy. No, doesn't look like it. So needs to draw Sableye plus the Psychic here. Oh, hey. Well. Sableye, Psychic, and a switching card. Everything Pramawat needs. Manual Retreat as well working for him. 120 damage spread, more than enough to KO those 2 low HP Comfeys with the damage that was already in play. And we see Michael Pramawat taking a very, very convincing game 1.
Yeah, and in 20 minutes was able to get the job done. We did not see much from Fabio, and that's no fault of their own. If you don't find Colress Experiment, how do you play this game?
We talk so often about, knowing when to concede. Do you think there was room for Fabio to have gotten an early scoop in that game so that there was more time on the clock for a potential game 2 and 3?
Yeah, I would have liked to see one of those hand disruptions earlier than we saw it. Of course, there was the Roxanne that was thrown away early. It wasn't exactly active just yet. And then we saw the Iono was not considered, instead went for the Raihan. So if you go for one of those, maybe you see 1 turn earlier, okay, he was going to draw out of it, let's just get out of here. And you got to give yourself those opportunities if you want to find those ways to victory. But if you just keep waking up, who cares?
Not once, not twice, but 3 times Snorlax able to wake up and continue this onslaught of attacks. Pramawat, hey, we'll take that.
Yep, that is a classic nod. He should patent that thing. This is a trademark.
He just got so far ahead and got to the point where his deck was so thin, so high odds he would be able to close things out, and sure enough, Pramawat goes up 1-0 here in our Swiss Round 6, ever closer to a 5-0-1 record here at the World Championships.
Looking very comfortable. He said that when he was thinking about finding which deck to play at the World Championships, he looked at NAIC results, saw that this deck was creeping up, wanted to give it a shot, said my list stunk, I need to add some jet energies to it. Played 3 games at the locals and decided that this was cracked and he's going to play it at the World Championships.
Yeah, decided it was going to be good enough. I know Pramawat's a local to you as well, so you probably have seen him at some of these cups, actually in person playing these cards as well.
Yeah, he loves coming out and joining. He plays a lot of other games too. He's just a Renaissance man. So every once in a while we just lose him for a few months, but he does love his Pokemon.
Absolutely, it all comes back to poke. Now Fabio here, down a game. Obviously, you didn't do the most. Your deck didn't work as it was meant to here in game number 1. You were able to glean a lot of information from your opponent's deck in that first game, though. How should Fabio adjust with the information he now has from Pramawat moving into this next one?
Yeah, I think you've seen that your opponent is ready for a dogfight. They want to play this as Lost Box back and forth, so use the fact that you have 2 Cramorants and try to steal some early prize cards. Maybe at that stage you can work in the hand disruption plus the Hisuian Gudra or the Zamazenta, whatever it may be, and then start to take a prize advantage there.
prize cards going out for both of these players. We'll look out for what could be in here for either of them. Pramawat just loves prizing Giratinas, huh?
I guess so. At least it's a 1-1. That's a lot easier to work with. On the other side, it's going to be that Super Rod, one of those 2 Psychic Energies. We'll see if that comes into play. Going to be going first in this matchup.
Fabio does not have an out to Comfey yet. Radiant Greninja will ditch this Psychic, draws 2 more, and still no out to Comfey. No VIP pass, no Nest Ball, no way to get this set up.
Yeah, we've seen players go second in Lost Box matchups because they love to use that Colress Experiment first. And sometimes it gives you the opportunity to see additional cards, maybe run into that Battle VIP pass, and punished right here, unfortunately, passing with the Cramorant.
And Pramawat immediately starting with the Colress's Experiment. A couple switching cards as well. Another Colress even. Really solid opening. 2 switch cards in this Colress Experiment. I think there's a Nest Ball in the hand as well. Pretty close to pulling off a turn 1 Cramorant attack. Looking
for this. This is going to be unreal. As you throw away a switch card, you know that this is going to be a strong start. Let's to see not one, but the second Water Energy already.
And the other one is the Path to the Peak. And it looks like Pramawat will value holding on to this as an option. Knowing now what the matchup is a little bit better, even though he didn't see Goodra come out, I think he would like to try to stick Path on a turn where he hits really hard into a Hisui and Goodra V-Star.
Yeah, the option to attack with your own Radiant Greninja, and of course, now not seeing that the Manaphy was played down, you lose that option to steal additional prize cards. But when you see your opponent start off this slowly, you probably just want to avoid them drawing cards.
Yeah.
If they can't play Pokemon,
True.
They definitely can't win Pokemon.
Yeah. Michael knows that Fabio does not have a Comfey or an out to Comfey in hand, so that might be more of the reason why Path to the Peak was held on to. I really like that.
He does say that he hates Abyss Seeking, so we'll see if he's forced to. Looks like that won't be the case there, as the energy was used to retreat, so it's going to be a little bit slower here. If the Battle VIP Pass was found, this would be an unreal turn with the Cramorant knockout. Doesn't look like we're going to see that, though.
Yeah, no Cramorant able to come through, unfortunately. Already attached for turn as well, so Abyss Seeking. Oh, it's actually a V-Star even in the hand, so it will be the Path to the Peak and the pass. What does Fabio draw for turn? It is actually the Counter Stadium, and he even has the Colress. Couldn't play that turn 1, able to play it now on turn 2. And there's still no Comfey. Where are the Comfey?
No out to basic Pokemon in this 5 cards.
Wow, this is just an absolute disaster for Fabio, to be honest. I mean, to get to 401 at the World Championships, he has certainly had much better opening hands than this. This is really very, very tough for Fabio to try to navigate. These are the type of games that make you question why you chose to play a certain deck.
Yeah, and he's played this throughout the entirety of the season, it sounded like. This is the deck that you trust more than anything, and it's starting to let you down. Hopefully these 2 cards here can help out.
Still no Comfey!
They are Pokemon. They're not the right ones.
Not the right ones at all. And if Fabio attaches an energy to this Goodra, he actually doesn't even have a way to draw cards next turn, with the Radiant Greninja being the only source of draw. I guess there is a Colress in hand, so that's something, but attach pass feels so bad in this spot.
Michael with the top deck of the Giratina V, going to use another Colress Experiment. Hey, we love easy decisions.
Yep, Fabio is definitely feeling jealous here. I mean, things just flowing for Michael Pramawat, everything going according to plan. Just 1 flower selecting will unlock Mirage Gate as an option. We do see that. Looking at the top 2 now, sending 1 to the Lost Zone. There are already a couple energy cards in the Lost Zone, so Pramawat will have to be mindful of that, as I do believe a Grass Energy was one of these cards here from flower selecting. He's going to take stock for a moment, realize what he has lost already at this game, make sure he's counting his resources. Resource management, a ever important skill in the Pokemon TCG. Trying to map out how this turn will play out. Looks like the other card is a Jet Energy in this hand, so it's 2 energy cards. Which one does he lose?
Yeah, that's tricky, as the Jet Energy does provide you with additional looks at the deck, and you're going to need some help here. No Mirage Gate in hand, no real Pokemon that you can attack with right now, so maybe this will get you 1 step closer to finding that Cramorant.
Yeah, all Pramawat is missing right now really is the Mirage Gate. He's got Snorlax. He's even got the option to shred with Giratina V if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Snorlax seems like it would be the better play. We'll see if Flower Selecting can get a little bit of help here. Can it select the exact card Pramawat needs? I have to imagine with this hand, what he wants is the Mirage Gate.
going to go ahead and bench the Giratina V now, but that leads to maybe that Jet Energy at some point. You do have the path to counter the Temple of Sinnoh.
Yep.
And I like that you can use this Super Rod just for 1 energy when you play 3 copies.
Yep. It does say up to now, not something it used to say. But you see Colress being drawn off this flower selecting, another VIP pass going to the Lost Zone. I think Michael is going to miss a attack this turn, at least a damaging attack. Is it time for Abyss Seeking here?
Yeah, he's going to close his eyes and count to 9 now in the Lost Zone. Gets 4 cards, going to toss 2 of those. Build your own Colress, and it's a really bad one.
So many energy cards. There's already 3 in the Lost Zone. Losing a Mirage Gate is not great, but I mean, if all your energy cards are in the Lost Zone and in your hand, you can't even use it. I think this will be now up to 10 cards in the Lost Zone, as he got to 7 and then used 1 more flower selecting, so it should be now up to 10. So Sableye is an option next turn, probably why he felt Abyss Seeking was worth it.
Yep. It is the magical number that you need to reach if you want to activate that Sableye. Also, the Star Requiem on the Giratina V-Star, which is the ticket to knocking out that Goodra V-Star on the other side. Maybe we'll see that this time around as finally Fabio getting the ball rolling, sees his second Colress experiment, but where are them Comfeys?
Where are the Comfeys indeed? At least the Pramawat now unlocked, so that will be a decent option. Can set up some chip damage on this Giratina, meaning a Goodra can KO it even if it evolves into a V-Star later, or if it does not evolve, a second Pramawat can come in and pick up that 2-hit knockout, and energy being already committed to Hisuian Goodra V on the bench. No Comfeys, that's a problem. Oh, 1 Comfey, here we go.
He's going to bench that, but definitely values the chip damage there. Does line up very well with the additional attackers in this deck. And this is much different than in game number 1. Michael got all of the cards into the Lost Zone that he needed, but unfortunately just finding all the resources out of order.
Let's see what energy are available in the deck. Okay,
Thankfully.
2 Psychic and 1 Grass. So there is still different energy cards available. That is a key piece of Mirage Gate. You are only able to accelerate 2 energy of differing types. With so many in the Lost Zone already and so many in hand, I was a little concerned that could be an issue, but looks like there are enough energy cards to make this happen, and it will be attachments to the active. We're going in with the Shred, I would imagine, here.
Right, and this feels pretty solid. Of course, you're losing the prize exchange in this situation, but this means that when these energies are gone, they're going to go to the discard pile. You're not going to see them stuck on a Pokemon at some point. These prize cards are definitely something that Fabio is going to consider.
Ooh, and the boss's orders is actually going to bring up the Hisuian Goodra V. Pramawat has that Giratina V-Star. We could see a Star Requiem or a Lost Impact to just deal with this threat right now.
Yeah, you start to consider what energies are going to be left after this.
That is true.
You can use
I
Star
almost wonder
Requiem.
if Requiem is the better play in this case.
That's what I'm thinking now. It doesn't feel correct because you want to save it for the Goodra V-Star. But if you have boss's orders, then maybe you can just target down that Pokemon before it becomes a true threat.
So we are pausing the game at the moment. Looks like judges are taking a look at a potential issue. We'll get word of exactly what is going on here shortly, but for the meantime, we are going to take a brief pause. In this situation, though, Pramawat is ready to start attacking with this Giratina V-Star. The question just becoming Lost Impact or Star Requiem.
I don't know if the energies are going to be available.
Right.
That was what? There's 1 Grass Energy in hand, 1 Psychic in the deck. You have that Super Rod, of course, but those energies are useless if they hit the Lost Zone once more. Just so many resources already depleted to get to this point. Doesn't feel great to use Star Requiem here if you could just walk right into the Zamazenta on the other side. But that might be the strategy you go for.
Yeah, we're getting word here. It looks like they're looking at an issue from game number 1. Second time we're seeing this happen, unfortunately, today on the stream. Can be easy to make some of these mistakes, right? There's so much going on continually throughout the course of the game, especially with Lost Box. Your turns really are so long. You're making so many decisions. I believe we are looking at a potential double energy attachment in a turn.
I'm going to guess it was on Michael's side because Fabio didn't play Pokemon very much in game 1.
It's looking like it's maybe on the Raihan turn from Fabio, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a manual attachment. Yeah, I think this did happen. So, because that turn was so long, he started off the turn with attaching retreating initially, and then later off in that turn went Mirage Gate to the Comfey, or sorry, Raihan to the Comfey, and then must have attached for turn to that Sableye that he attacked with that turn at the very end of the game.
Okay. Yep, I would definitely see that.
It feels really tough, though, because I don't think that I mean, it's a totally inconsequential thing. Like, Fabio's never winning that game. And I don't think there's any ill intent here based on what I'm reading and what I'm remembering from what happened in that game. It's just one of those situations of you're up on stage, you're 401 at the World Championships, it's been a long day, it's been a long road to get here, and that turn was so long, and you're trying to find just any way to get back into that game.
Yeah, that happens so often when you're playing a deck like this. You have so many actions, you feel like the turn's over, and then you get new life because of what you found off flower selecting or whatever it was, and then you start playing the turn like it's brand new again, and it's not great when it ends up like this, but it definitely does happen.
I think we need this Pikachu here to keep a better eye on things. Need him to start alerting us when these double attaches are happening.
He's a little hungry, okay? And who could blame him? The ramen has been delicious on this trip.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So I believe we've got our head judge involved backstage. Everyone's taking a look at things. We're reviewing the footage. We do have replay, of course, we've been seeing all weekend. So they're taking a look at everything, going to figure out exactly what happened and if some sort of penalty needs to be issued.
Well, how many energies are left to play with, man? I'm worried.
On Pram's side,
I'm trying. That is
I do believe there's
the
three
real puzzle.
3 in the Lost Zone. He plays 14. There's 4 into play right now, so that leaves 7 kind of hanging around. The issue can be something like Jet Energy isn't able to be accelerated with Mirage Gate, right? So while those energies are still hanging around, technically you don't have as much reach and as much access to gain them, to grab them, I should say.
Yeah, and I believe the Sableye was lost early too, so when you start to think of
one Sableye
the
left.
Other attackers that you can work into the mix, maybe Cramorant's going to be found pretty soon. That'll be an opportunity to start taking some of these one-prize knockouts, but we've already seen Boss's orders. There's a lot that Fabio could potentially end up doing in this game if we ever get to play this game.
Yes, shout outs to our incredible viewers watching along here in the crowd, also our viewers at home tuning in. Really helping to make the feel of this tournament just that much more special. It means so much more whenever there's people out there watching. You know, it feels better to be up on the stage. I mean, you yourself at NAIC had some family out in the crowd watching. I know it can mean a lot when you're up there on the stage and you know that there's friends and family out there cheering you on.
I knew there were some friends and family out there. I got paranoid while I was up there. I didn't want to do anything that would look bad, so I wasn't paying attention to the crowd.
You're like, I'm not looking in the crowd.
Yeah, and so I'm just focused on my game, and then I look over and I'm like, my wife and my kid are there, and I thought you guys went home. So it was really cool that they were still hanging out.
Had to cheer you on, man, you know?
Yeah, they did a great job. Maybe they are the reason I found that Mirage game.
Sometimes it's all it comes down to with these Lost Zone decks. Looks like we are having the ruling be issued out. Things are being discussed at the table now. Judges telling the players exactly what the situation is. And the thing is as well, you know, Fabio was very low odds to have ever won that game. I don't know if there even was a % chance that he could have won that game. So, I mean, if Fabio had just conceded, you know, this wouldn't have ever been an issue.
And you look on the other side, Michael's just trying to figure out, what? How did he cheat? He didn't even play game 1.
Yeah, it almost feels bad that this situation has come up because things just did not go well for Fabio, right, in that first game. I think it's obvious to everyone, Pramawat being a competitor and also a sportsman, you know, winner of the 2004 Sportsmanship Award. He knows that it was probably ill intent, no ill intent from Fabio's end.
Yeah, cheat is not the right word for me.
Of course.
That is a just misuse. It was not the right thing to do there. And of course, you don't know you're doing it until well afterwards. But we got cameras.
We got cameras. We got a chat out there, ever vigilant as well.
Even at what? At what time is it over in America?
They're up. They're up for sure. Things are being issued, and it looks like, ooh, I think, are we seeing cards?
We're playing. No, we're playing Pokemon.
Yep. We are back into the game. Let's get
Roll
down
footage
to the table. Pramawat, it appears, has flipped the V-Star marker, so it will be that Star Requiem.
I think that is the right choice. These energies are going to be so precious if you want to keep playing Pokemon. Understands that. Doesn't feel like the right call when you look at the damage on this Pokemon, but got to have those energies around. Discard pile's a lot better than the Lost Zone.
We will see Fabio's first flower selecting of this game. Not exactly how you draw it up here on turn 5 or whatever it is, but
Hey.
you work with what you have.
Turn 5, 5 in the loss zone. Slow and steady.
Doesn't always win
Ooh.
the race, unfortunately.
That does not feel good.
Yeah, we see that escape rope. What are you looking at here?
Well, obviously, the consideration on Fabio's side is I need to get more cards in the loss zone. I need Comfey to help out. Michael's in prize denial mode, so it's going to be Big Daddy Snorlax trying to hold down the fort.
The problem is Snorlax not powered up here. Pramawat going to need to find a Mirage Gate. There's only one Psychic Energy left in the deck as well.
Yeah, this is where you rely on the fact that you built your deck so consistently. Colress Experiment in hand, so could certainly find those switching effects.
Fabio's flower selecting, I'm pretty sure, is a Colress and a Mirage Gate. Just absolutely no easy decisions
Lost
here.
Vacuum,
his
which
Vacuum.
gets,
Okay,
which activates the Mirage Gate. We'll give it to you.
Yep. And we do see Pokegear looking for a potential supporter card. Looks like Colress and Boss as options. It will be that Colress's Experiment on the grab. Can play that this turn. Also to get to 7 and Lost Vacuum if Fabio has his own Stadium in hand. Could get you to 10 cards this turn. We see Sableye be unlocked.
Yeah, looking at the board, Sableye doesn't appear to be the strongest Pokemon, although it can be a nice one to work into the mix. When you see that Snorlax is not charged up, taking prize herbs doesn't feel great. Radiant Greninja does certainly creep out to me. Maybe you could take that double knockout on the Comfey, really slow down Michael as he's trying to find those last pieces to close out. Whoa, I mean, looking at this Colress Experiment, found some pretty great cards there. Gonna toss the VIP and the Pad to the Peak. And I believe what was held onto, Switch, Mirage Gate, Water Energy. That is everything you need if you want to attack with this Radiant Greninja. And we are gonna see that Mirage Gate immediately thrown down.
Mirage Gate coming into play. See if that is the Greninja option this turn. Looks like it. 2 energies now being added. Just needs 1 water from hand. And a switching card in 2 Comfeys would go down for Pramawat. That could set up for some sort of Iono comeback play or Roxanne on Fabio's end.
That was really cool. The Comfey got flipped up but did not fall over. These are the things I look for, Chip.
We will see the switch now, sending Greninja to the active. 2 energies being discarded shortly. And 2 Comfeys, I imagine, going down.
Yeah, it does line up there. I don't think it ever makes sense to attack into the Snorlax. That's not a Pokemon that you want to chip away at.
Yeah, you can't place the Sableye damage on it, so.
Maybe in a world you attack the Giratina, but yeah, you just don't want to leave an opportunity for Michael to draw a little bit deeper.
You see Michael now drawing for turn. Has a Nest Ball, can replace the Comfey that was just removed from play.
Maybe if you play Manaphy fast enough, it saves your...
It brings them back. In a different world, potentially. Nest Ball likely grabbing a Comfey. Also is Radiant Greninja in the deck. Could even see Cramorant if there's like an escape rope in hand for Pramawat. Cramorant could lead to an easy, 1-for-1, 1 prize trade. It actually looks like the draw for turn was a Mirage Gate, so Pramawat can attack with the Snorlax, attach for turn, plus use the Mirage Gate, even though it would just be for 1 energy.
Yeah, we could also see that 1 Psychic Energy go for the Sableye. There's a world where you could work that into the mix and spread some damage, try to clean that up later on, but then you're asking a lot from your final, one of your last 2 Super Rods. It looks like that Snorlax is going to get charged up with the final basic energy in the deck.
1 single energy left. That's all you need, though, with another energy card in hand ready to power it up. So we have gotten word officially there was a double prize penalty added to Fabio for game number 1. Did not change the outcome of the game. Pramawat is still the winner of game number 1. We're playing here in game number 2, but it will be a penalty that's added to Fabio's record. If anything else did happen in this tournament, it could lead to a future potential escalation.
We're watching you.
The attachment return to the Snorlax. We do see this thumping snore for the KO. Pramawat needing to flip the coins here. Make the call, Kyle. What do you think?
No shot, right? Come on, 4 in a row?
No.
Yeah. At least it's double tails.
It's only fair.
Yeah. Looking through, look at all those energies left. But this is a pretty solid place to be. You have 2 Pokemon fully charged up, ready to go. Your opponent does need some help. It's probably going to have to be hand disruption supporters over the next couple turns. And that means that you get to hold on to a lot of these great resources.
Yeah, if we could see something like maybe the Roxanne plus the Zamazenta, that would be pretty strong this turn if Fabio has the pieces to pull it off. I see Jet Energy, I see double Mirage Gate, and the Zamazenta. Super Rod as well. I think there's a decent enough chance Fabio could do this.
Yep, energies will be available. I don't know if all of them were in the deck, but with that Super Rod, you get those right back in.
Fabio,
ball here.
Yeah, really thinking through, doing some math. So much math involved with these Lost Zone decks, especially when Sableye comes into play, thinking about the amount of resources left, as it is a Metal Energy having to be sent, and Boss's Orders was the card chosen to be kept here. Oh, and I wonder if maybe Fabio should have played Mirage Gate before going for this Flower Selecting. It depends on what he wants to do this turn. He might not really be going for this Zamazenta play, but if he was going to plan for it, Mirage Gate would have been better early.
Right, you see in the hand, the priority is those Jet Energies, but it doesn't line up exactly with the Zamazenta. You're trying to get 2 metals down.
And speaking of 2 metals, we see 2 going back into the deck. Zamazenta in hand, 2 Mirage Gate. We actually do also see this Boss's Orders. Okay, this must be what Fabio is planning out here. Has Boss in hand, has Jet Energy. We could be seeing a KO on this Giratina V-Star on the bench.
Yep, took the damage early on from that Cramorant to soften it up, and it is a large threat. But you think on Michael's side, still got that fully loaded Snorlax. It would attack right in, knock out the Zamazenta. What threatens it at this point? And that's going to be on Fabio to find pretty soon.
We could see Fabio load an extra energy into play, maybe putting a water on the Comfey potentially for a potential retreat later on. But if there's a metal in hand, actually, could even not go with the Jet Energy. The kind of thing I was thinking is, you know, put this water here on the active and then Jet Energy to the active, use Mirage Gate, get the other metal out.
Yep.
That's where my initial thoughts went, but see what else Fabio has.
Yeah, this is what I saw earlier. There's no metal energy in hand. It's the double Jet, so.
We know there's one in the deck, so he can make this work, but can also pull off, okay, I see this. Go for the Jet. You can use the Mirage Gate if you need to, but give yourself a chance to just draw the metal energy. Oh, well, I guess you're attaching Jet for
you
turn.
Don't want it,
yeah. You don't want the metal energy now.
So this says...
And he's drawn the metal energy.
Yeah, the ordering here.
Could be a Sableye turn. It looks like that might have to be the option now. I do believe we've unlocked 10 in the Lost Zone.
Mirage Gate still held on to.
Raihan is in the hand, so that's an option here too. No supporter has been played just yet. Yeah, I wonder if bossing the Tina would have potentially been the play this turn. There is Roxanne available. It will be the second Mirage Gate. No metal energy, no psychic energy either. There is one psychic prize.
Yeah, just gonna scoop the cards up there.
Fabio just seeing there was no way to win this one. Things did not really go his way in either of these games. Michael Pramawat coming out ahead, moving to 5-0-1 at our 2023 World Championships.
That is not how I saw this matchup going, but it's definitely a way to get to 5-0-1, and Michael's going to feel just as great either way. What a Snorlax, man. Game number 1. We saw so many heads.
I mean, and those were massive as well because it allows Pramawat to hold on to resources. He doesn't have to use Jet Energy on those turns to get a Comfey active, use a Flower Selecting, send it to the bench, right? He just gets to continue to attack turn after turn. He doesn't have to go for any sort of switching cart plays. He gets to save those pieces for later in the game. So those heads really do make a big difference.
Yep. Important to note for both of our players that we will see both of them potentially in the top 8. Fabio not knocked out just yet. 4-1-1 is the record, so could easily win their next 2 matches. Hopefully, luck is on their side as they compete throughout the rest of the tournament. But all eyes are going to be back on Michael Pramawat with his 7 regional wins, trying to make a world championship happen too.
Looking back at this game, it just really was a story of things not going great for Fabio. It wasn't as great for Pram as it was in game number 1. A little bit clunkier of a start, but ultimately still enough to get ahead. Fabio had a great turn with that Radiant Greninja, had a potential path to win this game, but just not quite able to make it happen. No energy left for the Mirage Gate, concedes it, and we're moving on. And sometimes that's just what you need to do. Concede, move on to the next game, and just